Hi. I'll have the number 11, but if you could, hold the fug on.
Well, that's interesting. So it looks like, so I see like in the house of the Lord. That's not a horror story. That's like a religious story.
So that one is my based on true events.
Okay.
So actually, I worked as a correctional officer in Texas.
Whoa.
So I had one-on-ones with a lot of inmates who actually dealt with the human trafficking in Houston.
Wow.
So I just got the idea one day to use some of their story because that's that it was crazy just to hear some of the things that they did. And
Right.
then I reached out to some victims who I changed names and some dates and everything like that. And I just used some of their stories to what happened to them as far as being trafficked. So,
Whoa.
yeah.
That's pretty profound. So was it like a maximum security or what kind of prison was it?
So it was a gang reannouncement unit. So we had everyone from, um, they have like six or seven really high profile gangs and that come over from Mexico and all sort of stuff,
Yeah.
being so close to the border.
Right.
Uh, but we also had people that had drug offenses. So we had a little bit of everything there.
Wow. Got it. Yeah, I'm looking at that. I'm like that. I have so many questions about that. So you reached out to some of the victims, obviously for their privacy and everything, but like, so the offenders and then some of the people that were victims of these specific offenders.
Yeah, so they had a lot of programs down there to help actual victims that had been trafficked through all different levels. Ones
Right.
that, you know, so I just took a little bit of everybody's. It wasn't just necessarily one or two people. I just kind of combined everyone's story and kind of made it my own a little bit. But I did reference a lot of things that these people have went through, and
Right.
yeah, it's graphic, but it's real. So I mean, I like
Yeah.
that. But
And we do have to like look at the ugly stuff, right? Like a lot of times it's easier to just avoid that and read the entertaining stuff, but some of these stories like Sound of Freedom and it's like we need to talk about these things for sure. Um,
right,
and this is one, so like sometimes at the airport you'll see a thing that's like, oh, keep an eye out for human trafficking, and like you're like, what does that look like? Like, what
right.
does human trafficking look like? And I don't think it looks the way most of us expect by any means.
Especially these days because it's a lot of now. It's more internet profiles. It's
Hmm.
Craigslist. It's that kind of. It's not necessarily just someone gets kidnapped and taken and thrown into this world. A
Right.
lot of it is somebody knows somebody, and it could be a boyfriend, a friend, a girlfriend, and they're just it's a whole slew of things
It's
nowadays.
horrifying, right? I've also heard, with like the way that immigration's been the last, however many years, and all these, kind of people coming in, and we're not really sure who all is coming in. I've heard there's a lot of kids that have gone missing, and it might not look the way people expect. I mean, they might just go on a bus or get in a van with a bunch of other kids, and then just they kind of disappear from the system, right? And there's no screaming, there's no yelling, there's no people in ski masks. I mean, there might be people holding clipboards who are saying they're from some organization, and they just say, "Oh, you come this way, you go in here," and then that's it, and they disappear into whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me ask you. So, did you write the book while you were a corrections officer? Like, I can imagine that'd probably piss off some bosses.
Um, I think a lot of it was while I was there.
Yeah.
I worked 12-hour shifts, 4 days in a row, and then we had 4 days off. So there was a lot of downtime. I always carried a notebook with me, and I would just jot some things down. Obviously, I didn't put in the real names of people.
Right.
So it's not like you can go to the website and pull up a specific inmate because it's not just one inmate.
Right.
Left a lot of the prison side is not in it. It's more of what happened before
Before.
and so there's no news story that you can look up. It's I kept everything as confidential as I could, uh,
Right. And
just
if
for
they're
everybody.
yeah, and if they're crimes that people have already convicted of, it's all public records anyway, right? It's like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did that take a toll on you to write that? Because I mean, obviously, like looking at such heavy things.
Honestly, probably it probably should have, but
Yeah.
I have just always been the type of person, I can leave it so
Yeah.
I can disconnect. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but when we first started working in the prisons, one of the trainee training officers was like, "Look, do your 8, leave it at the gate," and that just stuck with me. So
Yeah. Don't take it home, right?
exactly,
Oof. Yeah, it's definitely not a job that's for everyone. I mean, it has to be done. But I think a lot of people like probably don't have the right stuff to compartmentalize it or,
yeah,
just be facing with that and draw a clear line like, okay, I go home and I'm back to the real world, quote unquote, right?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, the prison. Sometimes I think about it, I think about all the people in prison. It's like it's just kind of baffling to think like, I mean, millions of people that are just like in a box and for all different reasons, right? Like some very good reasons, some ridiculous reasons, and you're like, it's,
right.
I mean, and it's like a quiet world that we kind of hide away. Like our society, just like death, we kind of like hide it away and pretend like it's not happening. We all go about our business. But I mean, it is like, it's one of these things it trips me up when I really think about it. I'm like, God, like, what a crazy thing, you know?
It's a whole world inside there. It's completely different, but
Right,
they're all kind of the same. I mean, they're all their own worlds because they live there. So we just
right.
are guests, and they have their own set of rules and everything else.
They've got an economy, they've got a whole set of rules,
Yeah.
there's a whole hierarchy. Um, yeah, it's a totally different world. And it is, I mean, when you say like they live there, so one of these things I think about, like one time I did a tour of an aircraft carrier, and I like
Okay.
when I saw that there was a mail room and there's like a barber shop, I was like, oh wait, like you'd have to, right? I mean, like people are living on this boat. Like the boat has to behave like a town. It needs to have
Yeah.
all the things. And like a prison is probably no different, right? Like it has to behave like a town.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
has everything medical, it has mail, they have a little store that they can buy stuff from. They work, it has a school. So it is.
Yeah. We could probably, God, we could get into so much about that. I could pick your brain all day on this. I do want to stay focused on your books though. Tell me about Bottoms Up, because that cover too, that cover is very compelling with like kind of the eyes lurking in the shadow.
The Bottom Up is the second book in my House of the Lord series.
Okay.
So it follows the same characters, getting revenge of what takes place in the first book.
Mm.
Um, I don't want to give too much away.
Right, right, right. But still mostly a true story. I mean, based on real events.
So that one still has the same true story to it as far as what led up to everything.
Hmm.
And then that one's more of fiction based on, so basically a child gets taken,
Hmm.
and from the main character's child being taken, it gets taken to basically the better word would be baby factory, and the baby
Hmm.
factory part is actually the truest part.
Whoa.
And yeah,
Like human cattle type stuff. Like, okay, so
so
yeah,
yeah,
tell me about that in real life. Like, just yeah,
so I did a lot of research
right.
with my human trafficking, and basically there was a story about a news article about I forget the actual term they used, but it was basically a baby farm.
Mm.
People would illegally adopt these children, make women have baby after baby, keep them in cages, and basically just use them as human baby makers. And then once they couldn't have kids or were done with them, they killed them off or send them to working farms, kind of thing, as far as the human trafficking side of it. So, and
Okay, I got a lot of questions on that. We might spend some time on this here. So, okay, is most of this in real life taking place like in the US?
mhm. Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So basically, okay, these women, they're being impregnated, they're having children. These children never make it to a hospital. They don't have a birth certificate. They're nowhere in the system, no social security number. No one knows they're missing or anything. No one knows they exist. So then they can be sent anywhere.
They can be sold to anyone. And it's
Oh,
mainly, so the article I actually read was it was an adoption agency, and they were illegal, filtering out these kids to, let's face it, white, rich, privileged people that couldn't have babies of their own. So they reached out. Not a, I'm I don't know if they knew how illegal it was actually being, but I mean, you're buying a
right.
child, so
Right. Not exactly adopting a child.
right. It
Uh,
was money, and that's what it was.
so in terms of the people running these operations, I mean, are they like cartel, or are they like people in suits who are like business people who are just evil as hell?
And it's everyday people. You have the ones working in the actual adoption things that you would have never guessed. You
Right.
have a sweet old lady who's saying, "Oh, we have this baby that just came to us," not knowing, or maybe knowing, that they got where this kid came from. Oh, mommy was a drug addict, left her somewhere.
Just some
You
easy
know what I mean?
story, like
Yeah,
left with the fire department.
100%.
Um,
And so the gory details might not be known to those people, but
yeah. There's
blind
there's
eye, you know?
there's got to be, yeah, a lot of people who turn a blind eye throughout the process, right? And like
Right.
we don't ask questions, we just collect a paycheck.
Exactly. Above my pay grade kind of thing.
See, we need to talk about those stories a lot. Like I know in the last 4 years, like human trafficking as an industry has exploded, and it's, like we'll never know the real numbers, but it's estimated right now as it stands as like $236 billion a year. And there's people who are, legitimately like evil, the creeps, the pedophiles, but then there's also the people who are just looking at the dollar signs.
Right.
And then there's a bunch of people who are turning a blind eye and don't want to talk about it, don't want to look at it. Um, and I think about this a lot. Like, and I know you read my one story, Truth and Evil, but the thing that I always think about is like, you look at like, okay, Nazi Germany, and you're like, all right, how does an entire country of like hardworking, educated people go to commit such unspeakable evil? Um, and I worked in sales a lot before I was writing, and I've always been baffled by how many adults are willing to say or do anything to achieve their goals. Like integrity is a rare quality.
Yeah.
Right. So like all these people involved in this human trafficking, and they might not feel like evil. They might think like, well, I didn't get my hands dirty. I didn't do this. I just signed the paperwork. But like so many people have to be complicit in a web like that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at it. And it's not just women or children being trafficked. You have grown men that are work trafficked. So
Right.
they're doing all this labor, and you're not thinking anything of it, being the one that's hired them or bought them to do this work.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
words,
It's unbelievable. Like we need to tell as many stories about this as possible, make as many movies, especially movies, just because like it can reach so many people.
Right.
um, but actually I learned yesterday books is still a bigger industry than movies and music combined, so it's like books definitely matter. um, but I have heard like a very astonishing scary thing. There's actually more slaves on earth today than there were in like the 1850s or 1840s. Yeah. And partly it's because we have just more people. So there's just going to be, like even if slavery is a much smaller percentage, there's just so many more people. But um, this issue isn't behind us. And it's not even a racial thing. I mean, it's like an economic thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I always wonder. So like, when it comes to human trafficking, there's two pieces, right? There's like obviously the sex labor thing, but then there's also just like labor.
Hmm.
I'm wondering like where is this labor and like what are they building and like how do they just vanish into and like no one is aware of it, no neighbors see it, like
Right.
I can't wrap my head around it exactly, you know what I mean?
I think, and I don't want to make it sound any worse than it actually might be, but look
Yeah.
at all the immigrants that come over,
Mm-hmm.
and they are cheaper workers. They basically make these people work sun up to sundown and give them pennies to the dollar. In
Right.
my opinion, that's a form of it. If you're not going to
Right.
pay them a living wage and you're just working them until they fall over, I mean, that in my eyes is no different than, I mean, you're basically buying this person to do a whole bunch of stuff for nothing.
Right? You know, you hold all the cards, right? Like
Right.
if they complain, you're like, well, you're out of here. And then what the hell are they going to do? They're in some foreign place with no options where they're kind of trying to fly under the radar or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're perpetuating this problem by not confronting it, not talking about it, but it really is astonishing. I mean, it's horrible stuff, and I do wonder how many people are involved in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, I think it would scare the hell out of us to really know and look at it, but it seems like these stories are more and more coming to the surface. So that's a blessing at least, right? Like none of this is new. That's the thing. Like it may be an expanding, growing industry, but like people have basically been doing this forever. So I'm like, okay, the fact that it's coming to light, we're talking about it, and I'm like, that is progress. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
society's willing to look at it.
And that's the hardest part is getting people to actually acknowledge it because you don't see it. You can go to a million stores and all this other stuff and know that okay, sweatshops were a thing.
Right? They still are, right? These shoes I'm
Yeah,
wearing, this phone I'm
right.
using.
And we don't think about it as okay, well, a little child might have made my shoes and all this other stuff. We don't think that. We just buy it because we like it. And
Right.
it's kind of the same thing. Like, not to put it in a negative way, but you have workers on the street who are selling their bodies, and these people are just doing what they want, and it's they get what they need and they go. And
Yeah,
it's kind of like this. Yeah,
all the Johns and stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh
I mean,
yeah,
it's
it's
an issue.
no, it's ugly for sure. And we do need to be more conscious. Like I would love if there was a database of like, let's say just American companies that are American manufacturers. And it was almost like an Amazon alternative that was all just reputable American labor. And I'm willing to pay a little bit more, you know what I mean, for obviously higher quality, but then also to know like, okay, you know, I don't have to feel like it's
Right.
not something I need to just avoid because like it would be too hard to look at kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, that's it does well, just really quick. It makes me laugh when these companies lecture us on like moral virtues and things, right? Like, you know, yeah,
Right.
we use slave labor, but listen, you need to be more accepting, better person. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Thanks, Dad. Oh,
Right.
oh, no, I appreciate it. And I don't mean to go off on too much of a tangent. I knew we'd get into some deep things here. I was very excited about this talk because I knew you'd have some things.